Alright, I've waited a long time for this. Anybody that's watched my channel for any length of time knows that if it wasn't for King Kong, the original movie, I wouldn't be doing probably any of this stuff that you're watching on YouTube as far as animation and any of that kind of stuff goes. I've gone into all that at great length before, so I'll spare you the details now. Here we have from NECA the brand new King Kong figure. So today is August 25th as I record this, 2020. My roommate found this at Target yesterday and brought it home because he knew that I was not going to be able to live knowing that this is out there and I don't own it. So, big thanks. Let's get this open. Just kidding. I already opened it because I couldn't wait. Got some artwork on the inside though, the inner flap. And basically the box is the same as most NECA figures you've seen. I will say, looking at this box, it kind of has similar vibes to the Mezco King Kong figure that came out, I want to say, last year. So, yeah, let's have a look at the actual figure itself. So here he is, out of box. The 8th wonder of the world, baby. King Kong. Back there you'll see a book that I have that we'll probably pull a few reference pictures from just to compare and contrast a little bit. But the first thing you're going to notice when you take this guy out of the box is he's very big. I know what you're thinking, he's Kong, he's supposed to be big. Yes, that's true, but he pretty much dwarfs everything else that NECA has put out in this kind of style of packaging and this scale, I guess you would call it. So I got him zoomed in on the face, and this is the face that comes on him out of the box. You can see they added like a lot of scratch marks and like battle scars and everything, not only to his face, but also to his chest, and that's a stylistic choice that they went with. I think I might have preferred it without it, but honestly it doesn't hurt the figure to have it. This is kind of more reminiscent of Peter Jackson's Kong with the battle scars, as opposed to the original 1933 King Kong, but I'll allow it. Honestly, it's pretty good, and the way they kind of blended the blood in with the actual molding of the figure and the fur and everything else, it works. It's really good. So here's a picture of one of the models used in the original movie, and you can see what I'm assuming is probably the inspiration for this expression right here. So, good on you, NECA. You also got a secondary head for Kong, which is a little bit more stylized. I think it's meant to depict kind of a more realistic version of Kong, as opposed to the other head that was more reminiscent of the stop-motion puppet that they used for the original movie. At least that's my guess. I don't know. This might be just NECA's own interpretation of Kong. So I kind of wish that they had just done away with this head altogether, because it's very similar to the movie-accurate one that we got out of the package. And I wish we could have gotten a head similar to this with the features and everything, except just with a different expression. See, in the original movie, Kong had several different expressions. We got the angry, kind of growling, roaring one here, but he was also shown to be calm at times, or just, I don't know, quizzical or confused, or any number of different expressions. So I would have rather seen two different expressions as opposed to two very similar ones done in different styles. So the inside of the neck has a little ball peg sticking out, and the inside of the head has a space for you to plug that in, so it's easy to swap the heads on and off. You'll also see that there's a double ball peg with a much larger peg sitting inside the neck, so that'll give you some pretty good articulation. So I'm going to put the movie accurate head back on and probably leave it on for the rest of the entire figure's existence, because let's face it, I want a movie Kong. And while we're talking about swap out parts, you see that Kong comes with two fists on him from out of the package, but he also has two open hands that swap on very easily. It's really just, you pull, and then you got a peg right here, you got a hole in there, you just pop it right in, and you are good to go. And it maintains its articulation. It's on a hinge, swivels, so you're good. Speaking of articulation, let's go over the rest of that. So articulation wise, I did just mention there's a double ball joint here, which gets you a good range of motion in the head. Now, what you're going to see here is that it swivels almost at like an angle, or you could actually make use of the ball joint in the neck and kind of push it aside so that it kind of twists his head in a little bit, which is good. He looks down not very far at all, just because of the size of his chin, so you're going to have a hard time getting him to look down if you're using just the neck joint. However, he does look up quite a bit, so that's good. So the shoulder, you're going to be able to get it up about 90 degrees. You won't be able to get it up much farther than that, but obviously you can just twist the whole thing around and get his arm up over his head. That's no big deal. You do get a bicep swivel, which is cool. You also get a swivel inside both parts of the elbow joint, I believe. So you can see it gives a little bit of a swivel there, as well as the forearm gets a little bit of a swivel, which that's pretty cool. You get a double jointed elbow, which is really nice. It gives you, well, pretty good, I don't know, my math is terrible, so whatever angle that is, it gives you that many degrees of articulation. As well as, I already showed the hand, but we'll just go over this again. It twists and it hinges on the actual hand itself. So yeah, you do get a pretty good range of motion out of the arms of Kong, which is nice. So at the torso, you're going to be able to get a full twist, no problem there. You're going to be able to get a pretty good forward and back out of this figure. So back probably about that far at the torso, and about that far forward at the torso, which is really good. Now that's going to help you out if you want to lean Kong forward and pair it with the neck joint. You'll be able to get him to look forward that way, like he's charging in a battle or something. Also, because he couldn't look down that far with just the neck joint, if you wanted to use it in conjunction with the ab crunch, you'll be able to get a really, really cool pose in my opinion. The problem is, if you bend him too far forward, his like back is going to bulge out kind of a little bit, as you'll see there, but I don't know, if you're photographing him from the front or whatever the case, it's not going to really be noticeable. So here's something I don't know if I've ever seen NECA do this, but you've got almost like a ratcheted joint inside each hip, and to move it forward and back, it's got the same kind of thing. It's like, I don't know, it's much, I mean, even though it clicks, it's a much smoother joint out of box than I've seen on a lot of NECA figures of comparable size. So I had no problem, like I didn't have to loosen this up or run water over it or anything, so that was really good. And then at the leg, you're going to get double jointed knee, which again, really good. You're going to get pretty solid motion out of that knee, as you'll see there. If I can get it back into focus, there we go. So yeah, honestly, really like that. The leg does, of course, swivel at the thigh. Pretty good range of thigh swivel, actually. You're going to see the ball joint in there, but there's ways to hide that, obviously. As well as the shin kind of swivels at the joint right beneath the knee as well, which is nice. And then the foot does have ankle articulation as well as a ankle rocker. It's a little tough to maneuver just because of how thick the ankle itself is, plus all the fur and everything. So yeah, not a ton of movement down there at the ankle, but what you do get works pretty well if you can combine it with all the articulation in the lower body. So if you wanted a quadruped version of Kong, you could easily do that and have him kind of like hunched over and be on all fours. He did walk like this at times in the original movie, but for the most part he was just up on his back legs, so I won't display mine like this, but if this is what you imagine when you think of Kong, here's an option for you. So here he is with other King Kong figures in my collection. Now over here we have the Mezco King Kong, which I reviewed last year, I want to say, and there will be a link up at the top so you can check that out if you like. I love this figure. I've said pretty positive things about it in my review. The sculpt work is great, the detail, the paint, the weight of the figure, certainly. He's a thick boy. But this is just a alternate version of Kong. It's from like a comic book or something, I can't remember exactly what. Awesome figure, but I still think of the original movie when I think of Kong, so I prefer the NECA to the Mezco. The SH Monster Arts is based on the Peter Jackson movie, which, I don't know, I got a lot of issues with that movie, but not the least of which is the design of Kong. He's just a gorilla. He doesn't incorporate any of the kind of more monstrous elements that the original Kong had. In that movie, he's walking on all fours like a gorilla. He doesn't have any of the kind of human emotion displayed in his face. I'm not saying they did a bad job with the CG or anything like that, because they didn't, but when I think of Kong, this is never something that comes to mind. It's always this. So for me personally, as far as detail, as far as what pops into my head when I think of King Kong, and especially as far as like budget goes, this is like a $25, $26 figure. Go for it. This one's like 40-ish. This one was about 60, and now it's God knows how much on the secondary market. So if you need a Kong that looks great on a budget, here you go, NECA. Knock yourself out. I'm here recommending the figure, and I'm not even done with the review yet. So, you know, you got some quality here. So this is long after the review's already been shot, but I missed the opportunity to say that this gathering of action figures is called a congregation. And I'm just going to let you get back to what you were watching. So for those wondering, here is how he compares to some of NECA's more recent Godzilla figures. Now this is the Biollante movie version, which I just did a review of, and that'll be up on the screen, I suppose. Which I showed that this version actually scales pretty decently with the Mezco version of Kong, which we now know is much smaller than this one. So yeah, here's how you're looking. Kong is pretty much gonna just like pound Godzilla into the ground at this point. And then here he is next to the Tokyo SOS version of Godzilla, also from NECA, which I think is their biggest Godzilla figure to date. At least it's the biggest one I have. And yeah, stands head and shoulders above him. So unfortunately, you're not going to get a similar scaled Godzilla from NECA. I think there was one from the American Godzilla movie that NECA made from 2014 that was probably about a foot tall. So that one might actually be decent with this one. I'm not entirely too sure. I don't have that figure, so I can't compare it. So if you do actually have that Mezco figure, that opens up a couple different options for you. Here's Andero from the Mezco figure. This Kong unfortunately does not come with any gripping hands because NECA didn't pack him in with anything to actually grab. So You can try and get her in the open hand. It's not really going to work very well unless you like lay her flat. And I don't know, you could probably do something with this if you wanted to. I think Ann is definitely too small when you're considering the scale of the original Kong. He was only meant to be between 18 and 24 feet tall, and if Ann is an average size human woman, this would make Kong closer to like 35 feet tall, so a little big, but again, if you're not a stickler for detail, you can mess with that and have that as a possibility for you. The Mezco figure also included the shackles that Kong wore for like the last third of the original movie when he was first revealed in New York on stage, and when he broke free and everything, he had these. They're a little loose on this figure. His wrists aren't quite as big as the Mezco figures, so they are going to kind of dangle there and kind of slide down his forearm. You could work with this. I mean, if you're doing photography or something, I know there's a lot of people who can, you know, they can work magic with this. But just showing you what it looks like. So if you like this, by all means, go for it. So in case you missed it earlier in the video, go ahead, buy this figure. I highly, highly recommend it as a big King Kong fan, but also as a big fan of nice figures. NECA, I'm not going to pull my punches here. I've definitely been very skeptical of NECA. They had, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, they had a lot of really bad, notorious QC issues with figures breaking. I know a lot of us remember those DC superhero movie figures that they had. There was the Christopher Reeve Superman and the Adam West Batman and stuff, and those practically fell apart as soon as you took them out of the box. So they've definitely come a long way since then. They've been doing great stuff with their Ninja Turtles and Godzilla and Aliens, and a lot of their figures have vastly improved in my opinion over the years. So I'm happy to see that they got everything under control and that they made this King Kong figure, which basically looks like a love letter to the original 1933 movie. So anybody that thinks that they might want this figure and are coming here to kind of make or break their decision, I highly, highly recommend it. I can't say enough good things about it. I haven't been able to put it down since I got it. So yeah, really pleased with it. My name is Captain McKay. Thank you for watching. I've got animations, I've got other reviews and all kinds of stuff on this channel, so feel free to have a look around. Till next time, later on.
That's crispy.